As Bitcoin sits right now on the verge of its most significant breakout, or fake out, well-shaped mommy makeout of this entire bull market so far, something strange is happening that has quite literally never happened before. But is it bad, or is it really good? So if you're new here, do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe, and make sure to watch this video from beginning to end, because we're gonna absolutely blow your mind with the data that Bitcoin is putting out right now. And specifically, something is happening in these markets that has quite literally never happened before, and it is directly tied to Bitcoin and the entire crypto market pumping stronger, harder, and faster than we've ever seen. And it primarily has to do with this chart. But before we jump into that, let's take a look at a few things here. If you want to see some situational awareness of what's going on, take a look at the Bitcoin reserves on exchanges, which we see is nothing short of a supply shock. He says he doesn't know who's buying, according to Willy Woo on X, but short-term traders are selling their coins to a Bitcoin vacuum cleaner. And we can take a look at the Bitcoin exchange reserves. And if we actually, let me minimize my camera there, you can see this is the lowest Bitcoin exchange reserves have been since the bottom of the bear market that we saw basically end at the end of 2022, and even going back all the way to the beginning of 2022. We actually see exactly what happened. This is where Bitcoin bottomed and the price started, you can see this white line. This is the bottom of the market. Bitcoin has been rising since the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023, and Bitcoin exchange reserves massively collapsed at that bottom. But what do you see that really started happening basically as soon as the Bitcoin ETFs went live at the beginning of 2024 in January? The Bitcoin exchange reserves, as you can see right here, have been completely, consistently, but I'll be honest, a little slowly, like it's really slow, but consistently bleeding out. Whereas we see back here in 2022, there was a very sharp decline where Bitcoin exchange reserves got to about a little under 3 million. Currently, we're at about 2.6 million on exchange reserves, and the trend has not changed once. The trend has not stopped at all since these Bitcoin spot ETFs launched. That's saying something. We are seeing a slow bleed from the Bitcoin exchange reserves that we've never seen before. So what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at this. So we see Plan B also in October predicting a $70,000 Bitcoin, November 100K. Technically, we didn't actually get that. We got about 99.8, so right there. And as well, we got the largest monthly candle in the history of Bitcoin, a $26,000 price increase in a single month. It is the largest single monthly candle Bitcoin has ever seen. And are we almost done? Well, all metrics are actually showing us that this bull run is actually just getting started. But we see Plan B's prediction here is up next is that we will see $150,000 per Bitcoin in the month of December. Leave a comment below. Do you think that we're going to $150,000 in the next couple of weeks, in just the next month before we enter 2025? Very curious to hear. We also see that Bitcoin breaks above the top line of this Fibonacci Bollinger Band and the bull market begins, according to CryptoCon. He's saying here, so many people are eyeing a top in the early part of 2025, but there's nothing to suggest that this will be the case. So far, that if Bitcoin would top at the beginning of 2025, that would be unlike the past. Bitcoin has not topped this early in a bull market ever. Basically, he's saying here the bull market is officially here and is just getting started. And again, I go back to this chart that I show all the time. But yeah, I personally think that we still, maybe we don't run all the way until about September or August of 2025. Maybe we top out a little bit sooner. Maybe we top out a little bit later. This is not like guaranteed, but this is a very good guide, a rough idea, because literally, the past bull markets have literally done this almost to the day in terms of where their tops were. But let's even be a little conservative. Let's be a little bit cautious. Let's say that we don't top out here and we top out sooner. Even if it was about 150 days from where we are right now, that would still be right? Like that's even 100. If we only have 150 days left instead of 300, which would be right here, that's still 150 days. First of all, is a ton of time. So I don't know. I just struggle to understand how anybody realistically thinks that we're like very close to a top. If anything, we're at the midpoint of this cycle. If you're not in the markets yet, yeah, you're a little bit late, but it's not completely too late. Okay. The best time to be buying clearly was, at the low point of a 4-year cycle, which was back at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. But is it too late for you to make any gains? No. Specifically, if you're new to this market, you probably are like most people that are new and you eye up Bitcoin, you don't eye up Bitcoin, you eye up altcoins for your premium gains. Because again, let's be honest, if you want to own a whole Bitcoin, it's $100,000 now. Okay. It's not cheap. I mean, it's cheap for what it will be in the next 10 years, in my opinion. I think it's going way higher than that. But if you say you're in college or you're working a job 9 to 5 and you want to throw a couple hundred or couple $1,000s into crypto every week, let's be honest, guys. A lot of people look at altcoins for those crazy opportunities. And basically, yeah, you're not early, but the altcoins have not ran at all yet. And that's actually one of the topics I want to talk about here. So we also see here that according to Bitcoin Archive, the Bitcoin correction happened at the end of November in 2020 at the psychological level of the previous all-time high, and then it exploded. Now we're doing the same thing. We're correcting at 100K, also a psychologically significant price level. Is this basically, are we right about here if we compare ourselves to the past and have a rough idea? I think so. I think we're kind of at that midway point. I think we're midway through Bitcoin's pump, but I think altcoins aren't even midway yet. Altcoins have still gotten destroyed. They have not truly pumped yet, and I want to talk about that in a second. But we also see Koosh on X here showing this, if I actually make it big, yeah, the ending diagonal pattern showing Bitcoin basically entering the final stage or stage 5 of this breakout, which would put Bitcoin, according to him, somewhere in between $300 to maybe even $400,000 per Bitcoin. Okay, now that's pretty big. I think it's realistic, but yeah, that's a very bullish target, right? I think that would be insane if something like that happened. Now, one thing I want to talk about that I hinted at the beginning of the video is USDT dominance. USDT dominance is the dominance of USDT, and traditionally or historically, when USDT dominance was at its lowest, the market was pumping, and when it's at its heights, that's when the market is getting dumped on. I mean, if we look at like these levels where it's at its highest, we have summer of 2022 and then November of 2022, which was like the ultimate bottom for crypto, and USDT dominance was at its all-time high. Now, what do you notice here? USDT dominance has not made a new high since November of 2022. It has been 2 years since USDT dominance has made a new all-time high. Has that ever happened before? We have never in the history of this chart gone 2 years without making, I put these, you can see where these new higher highs are. We have never gone 2 years, okay? We don't have another high on this chart. Is it because Tether isn't printing anymore? Well, let's take a look. No, Tether's still been printing. You can see specifically in January 2023 till now, yes, USDT circulating supply has been increasing. So why is USDT dominance? In fact, not only is it not put in a new high, it looks like it wants to collapse here. We're at the lows that we saw back in March of 2024 when Bitcoin and the altcoin market topped out for the beginning and first half of 2024. Why are we back here with USDT dominance? Why are we nowhere close to setting a new high, which sits around 10%? Currently, we're slightly below 4% USDT dominance. Why are we dumping for the first time ever? Why for the first time ever when, as I just showed you, USDT is still being printed and minted? Why is USDT looking so dumpy? Okay, well, we can also look at Bitcoin dominance, and we see that Bitcoin dominance for the first time of the last 2 years, going all the way back to November of 2022, also looks to be completely dumped on. Okay, this looks to be like the first, it really is like the first time it looks like we're actually breaking down here. You can see this is kind of happening. It seems to be accelerating a little bit, but you look, things can really pick up, especially when alt season happens. You can see back here in February of 2021, that was a major alt season. But we really kind of need Bitcoin to hold steady, probably between 85 to 100,000 US dollars. If altcoin, or depending on where, what part of the stage Bitcoin is at, we need Bitcoin to hold basically near the all-time highs, whatever the current all-time highs are. Say it happens now, it would be close to 100K. Maybe it happens in 3 months from now when Bitcoin's at 150K, then we want it to hold there. Wherever all-time highs for Bitcoin is, we kind of want it to hold there, and that's when like a true alt season happens. But the dominance Bitcoin dominance combined with USDT dominance, combined with the entire altcoin market cap chart, which is now 4 weeks into new highs, right? 4 green candles. Is Bitcoin still pumping on the weekly? No, this is our very first red weekly candle for Bitcoin. If we're going to be getting the close. By the time you're watching this video, we probably already did get the close because it's only a few hours away. The very first red candle for Bitcoin, but altcoins are still pumping. And we see Bitcoin sits at like the most critical point that it's been of the last couple of months, and especially this run, right? I have this highlighted, and I'm going to keep talking about the CME gap down here, which I don't know if we're going to it now or later. I think we will eventually. But the point is, Bitcoin is right there, and it could easily flip this previous support that is now resistance into, we could see Bitcoin initiate a breakout here, or we could see a rejection, a trend change, or just some sideways right here. And that's going to be very important for what the rest of the market does. But with that being said, the Bitcoin chart has bounced recently at the 21-day moving average. Overall, it looks good. We're about to see the stock market open in just hours. This will be very indicative and telling to see what the trend of Bitcoin will do, specifically as well what the DXY might do if the DXY continues dumping here. Last week was a pretty dumpy week, the dumpiest week we've seen in months. Going all the way back to like September, the dumpiest week for the DXY. If that really falls off a cliff, I think Bitcoin is going to explode to the upside. And altcoins are completely primed as well. So watching altcoins, I think, is very important here. We're closer than we ever have been since this cycle started to a real altcoin season. We have not seen a true altcoin season just yet. But this is the closest we have been since this bull market shifted into a bull market. It was a bear market, and that bear market ended at the end of 2022, but we've been in a bull market for nearly 2 years now, and we have not seen a true alt season. This is the very first hint, the very first taste of a true alt season, and I think it's going to blow people away. And get signed up to FeMX below if you want to buy Bitcoin, altcoins, or trade, and you get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus if you use my link below. And without any further ado, that's it for me.